Mobile phone videography.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'll ask that we take our seats so we can do the final bits of the day 2.
From what we are hearing. I know.
I'll ask that we take our seats. Kindly, let's do this quick so we can proceed to the final bits of our day today. We have just come out of a wonderful session, the finals of the FLAM competition. We're going to touch a bit on the details that are in or where or should have been discussed within the arbitration competition. And thereafter we'll have a panel session later on to end the day. And thereafter we'll get into the announcement of the winners for this year's Football Law Annual Moot. So I'll ask that wherever you are, kindly, let's get back in and start the proceedings.
Yeah, I just did.
That's you, good.
Was it the which one? What's the title?
Judge.
Is he the one? I mean, he's the one making the presentation. This guy.
No, that white one. That was the one and the one.
And while we take our seats, once again, I would really want to thank our partners and our sponsors for helping us put this together. Indeed, without them or without this kind of partnerships, initiatives of this nature, never really hit the ground and get moving. Partners and sponsors, Bet Niger, Beyond Limits, PCN, Galadima FC, Peaceport FA, Maliantaki FC, Dominion Hotspur, Sports and Justice, Right to Win, D-Shark FA, Bison FC.
Let me put another one. I didn't know why, but
TBD Management, Footwork FC, G Innovation, Mohammed Football Club, Dominion Hotspur Football Club, the Football Federation of Uganda, and the Football Federation of Nigeria. Ladies and gentlemen, those who are our partners and sponsors for the 2025 Fires of the Bongo Football Law Annual Moot. With the theme, the role of international arbitral tribunals in maintaining contractual stability is
from there.
We'll be getting into a session that will be handled by Mr. Georgi Gradev, and that point of discussion is the no work, no pay principle under the Swiss Code of Obligations and right of parties to settle. We'll be getting to that in a bit. gentlemen. Mr. George Iguate.
I know you're already tired of me. Hanging around, talking to all of you, and sharing this panel with this difficult competition. And I already got so many requests. Please make it short. Please make it short. So really, I will try to fly over the topics without reading the main parts. Okay? So again, this is a topic. Actually, there are two topics into one, but at the end, we will make a conclusion that they actually have something in common. The first one, which I'm going to address, is the principle so known as Moot, which in Latin sounds like exceptio non ambulati contractus. So it's kind of difficult to pronounce for some people, not so much. But it has its basis in Swiss law, Article 82 of the Swiss Code of Obligations. So this will be the first type of cases that I'm going to go through. And then the second one is the right to set off claims, particularly the ones where a club wants to fine a player and then reduce his salary against the fine. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Did it freeze? Yes. Okay. Right. So we are moving with the first type of cases. No work, no pay. This principle works two ways. It works also as a defense for clubs and defense for players. The basis is Article 82 of the Swiss Code of Obligations, according to which a party cannot demand performance while in default of its obligations. Put it simply, if one of the parties does not perform their obligations under the contract, the other party is automatically released upon notifying the counterparty. That's an important element that I'm going to talk about in a minute. You should know that this principle, exception non ambulati contractus no work no pay, applies as a defense for both clubs and players. We have seen in the past that FIFA and CAS both tend to rely on this principle when one of the parties misbehaves. For example, the club is not paying the player's salary, the player withholds performance after notifying the club, or the opposite. A player who is staying at home cannot claim his salaries and claim he had just cause to terminate when he is not rendering performance. So basically, this principle applies to the main conditions for the contract, the essential conditions, which are from the side of the player to perform, to play football, and on the side of the club to pay salaries. This principle does not apply to secondary conditions, like they didn't pay my bonus for winning the championship, I'm not going to work. That's not how it works. Or the club didn't give me an air ticket to come back, so I'm not going to go back, I'm not going to perform. That's not how it works. These are secondary elements. So this principle goes only to the root of the contract, the main obligations. Play football, pay salary. That's it. Next slide, please. Next slide. Yes. Okay. So this is one of the underlying decisions that the Federal Tribunal has rendered. And there are some general rules which we can deduce from this decision. Let's go one by one. First of all, there should be a bilateral contract. There should be at least two parties, player and club, that this principle can come into play. Then these parties should have reciprocal duties. In the football context, this means one owes salary, the other one owes performance, work. Again, this was a defense for non-performance, so that's not enough to terminate the contract. It's just to waive your performance if the other party is not complying with their obligations. It allows, as a principle, to temporarily suspend activities, temporarily suspend payments, temporarily suspend playing or training for the club. not permanent. It cannot be used again for termination. During the suspension time, the debtor, actually the creditor can still request that the debtor performs their part. Meaning that, for example, if a player is not paid his salary, he can suspend his performance and nevertheless ask the club to pay him the salary during the suspension time. So the club would still be obliged for that. So this doesn't suspend the obligations of the counterparty. And the burden of proof, of course, is on the one who involves it, and the creditor must prove that they have executed or offered to execute the obligation. So, in the case of a player, he has already offered his services, he has rendered his services, and the club should pay him. If they don't pay him, then the player can suspend performance. It sounds very complicated so far, but let's go practical. Next slide. And I'll give you quickly a few scenarios so that you can understand how it works. This first case is one of the early cases. It misses one of the most important elements, and I'll come to that a bit later when I present you the most recent case law. But generally, the case is like that. The player was at home in Brazil. He was working for a club in Russia, So the player waited until the outstanding salaries reached a threshold of 3 salaries, and then he said, I'm going to terminate my contract. So he terminated the contract, and he claimed he had just cause. But here CAS, you can go to the next slide. Here CAS actually said, you can't terminate because you were longly absent from the club without authorization. And the club was entitled to withhold your salaries until the situation is settled. So for the period the player was away at home without authorization, those salaries were not accruing. So he cannot say, they didn't pay me, I'm terminating. So the no work, no pay doctrine protects reciprocity of obligations. A player cannot rely on overdue wages to justify termination if he is simultaneously in breach of his core obligation, which is to play football. An exception non-independent contractors applies, again, as a defensive shield, not a basis for termination. Next case, please. So the first one, you saw how a club can protect itself from a player who is acting recklessly, unauthorized, absence from work, and still demands his salary. The club can say, no, I'm not going to pay you because you're not providing your services. Now we have a case with an opposite sign. It's one of the first. Again, there was a player where a club owed him a salary for just 1 month, for November. And then the club went to terminate the contract, alleging that the player was not performing his side of the deal. Here, CAS considered as a defense for the player that the club was the one who first breached the contract by not paying the salary for November, which gave a right to the player to be absent for work. So this absence does not constitute just cause because it was lawful, it was valid, and it does not allow termination of the contract early. Pay attention that in this case, it was found that just 1 salary non-payment was enough for the player to be absent and not to render his services. Again, that's not serving for termination, it's just to freeze your performance. So the key takeaway, of course, is that the club in salary default cannot invoke player misconduct to justify the termination, and the salary arrears block just cause. So clubs must be in compliance with their obligations first before they can claim performance. These 2 cases that I presented to you until now are one of the old, they're ones of the old cases in CAS, where CAS was actually applying Article 82 of the Swiss Code of Obligations, the exception non-obligated contractors principle, kind of automatically. But now the case law evolved in time, mainly because of the Swiss Federal Tribunal, which provides mandatory case law for CAS and FIFA. And now there was one more requirement added to the application of this principle, which is that the party who wants to avail of this principle must notify their counterparty in advance. This is not a right you can invoke retrospectively. That's very important. We have cases where clubs come to say, well, the player was missing training and we held his salary, but this was not stated at the relevant time. This claim was not raised with the player at the relevant time. The same applies to the player. The player is missing training and they're not paying him, he terminates, but he never said he's going to miss the training because they're not paying him. So he was actually breaching his contract. He cannot terminate. Now, this is a case of one of the most famous Tunisian players, Naim Sliti. I think you have all heard of him. He's one of them, at least he used to be one of the main players in the dressing room in the Tunisian national team. And I was happy to represent him in both FIFA and CAS against a club from Saudi Arabia, Al Ettifaq. This case happened when there was COVID, approximately the early months of 2021. At that time, Al Ettifaq allowed their players to go back to their homes. So Naim Sliti took a plane and went back to Tunisia approximately at the end of April 2021. Then, after a month, when there were already measures, precautions in place, the club summoned all their players to come back. And they even arranged a plane to take their players from Paris and bring them all together so they don't have to travel separately and bring COVID to the club. But at the last minute, Naim Sliti called me and said, look, I don't want to go back. I feel scared about my health, my situation, COVID, and you have to find a way to excuse me. I want to stay a bit more at home to be sure that I can go back safely. In the meantime, the club started pressuring the player to accept unilateral reduction of his salary. So he was not feeling comfortable with that too. Probably he didn't want to talk to them about that. So he asked me to find a legal way so he can spend a little bit more time at home. And what I found was that the club was in default towards Sliti for those months that they're supposed to pay him. They allow him to stay at home. So there were like 2 months, a bit more than 2 months of salaries that were not paid to him. And there were unilateral reductions applied by the club without his consent. So I wrote to the club that the player will avail of his right to cease performance until he gets fully paid. The club, in response, started imposing fines on the player on a daily basis. Every day he missed the training, they were sending us a fine. They were not complying with due process. They were never asking the player, what's the reason why you're not coming to training, what's your defense. They were just simply applying the penalties day by day, sending us emails. At a certain point in time, they paid what they thought was fair. Sliti said, I want to go back and train with them, let's go to court. So we went to FIFA to resolve this issue with the outstanding salaries. And FIFA, to my astonishment, totally misinterpreted our position. And first of all, they said, I gave an example in the case that even in Barcelona, they cut only 25% of the salaries because the players agreed to. But here, we don't have an agreement, and you should cut nothing. And the club wanted to cut 50%. The FIFA in the decision said that I have agreed with the 25% cut. They misunderstood what I said. It was a comparison. It was not agreement. And then CAS, of course, on the second instance, annulled that and even mocked FIFA, saying, where did you read that? Where did you take this from? It was never stated. Then FIFA said that the club applied due process, so the fines were legitimate. So the club was entitled to set off their claims for fines against salary, which was not true, because the player was never asked for this reason to be absent. And here FIFA actually didn't look at the principle of exception non-manipulated contractors, when they should have. But nowadays, for all in this case, they are looking very closely to this principle. So we had to go to CAS. Of course, CAS decision, next slide please, totally overturned the FIFA decision. First of all, they agreed that the unilateral reductions were illegal. They were made without the player's consent. I, as a counsel for the player, would have never agreed to that. It's just making a comparison with Barcelona, not agreeing to that. And there is a very good paragraph in the CAS award which you can read. This is paragraph 91, where CAS actually endorsed the principle of exceptio non petita contractus, saying that it's a basic principle in football. It should apply to all kind of bilateral contracts between players and clubs, coaches and clubs, units and coaches. So CAS actually said the player had the right to cease performance because they were in default, the club owed him salaries, and because the player, prior to ceasing performing his side of the contract, informed them formally in writing, so they were aware what he was doing, and that's why the whole decision of FIFA went into the junk. But again, after this decision, I see more consistency in FIFA, where someone invokes exception non-anticipated contractors, they tend to accept it if the party has first informed the counterparty about their intent to stop performing their side of the contract because of a breach of the counterparty. So this notification is a must. And we will probably fly through the other cases. Let's go to the next one. And that's another case where club sought to where a player actually sought to invoke exception non-anticipated contractors in his favor. The player was granted authorized medical leave, but after that, he decided to stay at home for a bit more, for a longer period. And in this period, he didn't tell the club that they were in breach, and that's exactly the reason why he stays at home. So when he went to FIFA and CAS, he invoked, let's go to the next slide. He said that, look, because they were not paying me, I was staying at home. But he didn't say that in advance. That's the crucial point. If you have this kind of grievance, you need to raise it with the counterparty immediately. Good faith requires that you don't keep an argument in reserve. So you're not acting in good faith if you want to invoke this principle retroactively, as they call ex post facto. So here, CAS did not side with the player because the player was too late to invoke this argument. Let's go with the next topic. I hope I'm flying through and you still get the main points, right? The key takeaways. Okay. This one looks very complicated, but it's not. And it looks very complicated because of the finals in the arbitration booth, where our contestants were really sweating with these questions. And now, girls and boys, you will see that that's not so difficult. That's not such a difficult point. Getting to receive something at least to live on. Full setting off is not permissible. That's what we had in the Moot. So in the Moot, if you're interested, if we had to rule on the case who would win, I can tell you immediately, the player would win. In real life, with a case like that, the player will win. Because the club wants to set off the entire amount. There was another argument whether the club can set off part of his salary, it would be a different case. And the ruling might be different. But since the club went to set off the full amount, it could not do that. Why is that? First, there is one limit. In Article 125, paragraph 2 of the Swiss Code of Obligations, which simply says that you can attach, actually it's the opposite, it's a negative. You cannot attach the bare minimum for subsistence, for living existence. You cannot attach that minimum. Above that threshold, that's not the case. You can still attach above that threshold. And then, this is a general rule. Then we go to the lex specialis rule, which concerns exactly employment-related disputes and relationships. This is the Article 323 litera B of the Swiss Code of Obligations, which also says that an employer can set off claims against the employee to a certain extent and entirely only where there is willful damage, or I will add something from the case law, where there is dolus eventualis. Dolus eventualis is a legal term which is known in criminal law generally. It is when a party, by his behavior, anticipates to cause damage, but nevertheless continue acting recklessly. A good example would be a driver of a car who speeds through a market full of people he should be conscious that he might kill someone or hit someone at least, but nevertheless he continues to speed up acting recklessly. That's the 7 case. Then this comes from the case law. What is the relevance in football? Let's go to the next one. Let's go practical. We actually got this case from our appellant, I think. Was it the appellant? I think so, the Shakhtar case. They got this. Yes, I can say that this is one of the first, maybe the first, where CAS actually set up a list of criteria that needs to be followed for a club to be able to deduct a fine from the player's salary. In this case, the player was misbehaved. There was liquidated damages, a penalty clause in the contract in case of such breach. I think, not sure, but I think the player was late to return from vacation. So they had a specific clause in the contract with the penalty in that case, so that they can ensure that the players always come in time. So they decided to deduct that penalty from the player's salary. The player thought that this is unfair, illegal, and he even went to terminate the contract, which turned to be without just cause, as you can see. Next slide, please. But what is important in this case is that it laid down the foundations of the legal test that has to be followed. Can we go to the next slide, please? I'll give you 10 seconds to read. What I was satisfied today was that in the appeal brief, the appellants actually set up this test and they tried to answer to the questions of this test. What I didn't like in the respondents' brief, we're talking about the written submissions, they didn't touch upon this test. They had to set up this test and try to rebut this test, say there are conditions which were not fulfilled. This is what the appellant tried to do. They tried to prove that all the conditions were met. You had to also set up this test and say, no, there are a few conditions which were not met. For example, the one that sets the limit that I cannot live without salary. There should be a limit up to which you cannot attach. Above that limit, that's fine. That's what I was missing, guys, from your brief. You have to understand that, okay? Trying to fix you as well. So briefly, there are several requirements. Let's go back. I think this one. Okay. So first of all, both parties must owe each other performance. So both of them should be creditor and debtor at the same time. In this case, the player owes a penalty to the club, but the club owes salary to the player. So the club wants to set off their claim for a penalty against the player's salary. Both claims must be of the same nature. I had a case where a lawyer, actually claimed that the money we paid for an air ticket for the player, which was not on the contract, could be used to set off our salary payments to the player. I said, he asked us to give him money for an air ticket, which is not in the contract. We did it in good faith, we gave him the money, but then we are setting off this money, we are subtracting this money from his salary. And the lawyer from the other side said, oh, no, you can't do that because these are different types of performance. One is salary, the other one is air ticket. No, that's wrong. Actually, both are monetary claims. I'm claiming money, and I gave her money, which I want back. So they are equal claims. Then, of course, the counterclaim also must be due. I heard one of the things, I think it was the parent who said that it must be due. But guys, there is one more thing. It could be likely to be performed. So it's not mandatory that's always due. The counterclaim might be also performable even in a foreseeable future. So there is one exception to this rule. Of course, if the contract contains a clause explicitly prohibiting set-off between the parties, they cannot set off. If that's prohibited by the contract or by the law. In our case, Swiss law does not prohibit that, but you can include such a clause as a lawyer of the player. against the club, saying the club cannot set off their claims against the player, whatever happens. This will be a takeaway which I'll give you again. There must be, the law says that there should be a notification, but then the case law says that this notification may be implicit, meaning that the moment I take part of your salary, you're already notified that I'm applying the set-off. So it's not so strict as a requirement. For me, the most important requirement on the list is this minimum wage limit. One salary above the protected minimum may be set off, but only salary above the protected minimum may be set off. This means that there should always be some payment to the player. But let me give you another practical example. What would happen if in the same month where let's go back to our Moot case. The club attached two salaries, right, guys? Two salaries. But would it be different if during this time, when they attached two full salaries, they were paying the players some bonuses? Would that make any difference? I would say yes, depending on, of course, the bonuses. If it's like peanuts, maybe he cannot buy even water with that. But imagine he gets a loyalty bonus or gets a performance-related bonus. They win the cup, he gets $10,000. His salary in the meantime is $4,000. So they're attaching $8,000, and during this period of time, he got already $10,000 in his pocket for winning the cup. So can he claim that this was not sufficient for him to exist, to live? No, he cannot. So this is a specific situation. So for me, this is the most important requirement, the second to last. And finally, full set-off, I already told you, is possible only in two scenarios. One is the intentional damage, the other one is the those eventualities where they are right. In this case, next slide please. In this case, CAS sided with the club because actually it was for the player to claim that the portion of salary he received was insufficient to live. And in fact, that was the same thing in the Slovan Bratislava case with Moha, which I held for the club, where Moha actually received 20-something thousand from us before terminating the contract, and he returned the money. And CAS saw that bad faith. CAS said, it doesn't matter if you return the money, you receive this money. So if you want to use it, you can use it. The club was in compliance with their obligations, plus the money you all received so far, and including those 2 months, were enough for you to leave. So you can say that this was below the threshold, below the required by law. And of course, in that case, salary deductions are lawful. Set off when reciprocity, you claim, and Article 323B limits are respected. That was the key takeaway from this case. Let's move to the next one. This is kind of an odd case. It's an old one. I'm not sure how much it will be applicable today, but I'm giving it just an example for clubs to help clubs sometimes when they have legitimate claims to use that. A player was sanctioned by 30,000. Due process was complied with, so the sanction seemed to be a valid one. And then this sanction was set off against his salary. And in this case, let's go to the next slide. CAS found that all those requirements that we spoke about a minute ago were met. The player never argued again that the set-off reduced his salary below a subsistence level. Again, this seems to be a crucial criterion in this kind of cases. And therefore, the club's set-off for the 30,000 fine was legitimate and valid. Apparently, in that case, the player was getting some money in the meantime, so yeah, he didn't claim that he was like left with nothing. The key takeaway is the disciplinary sanction that has been lawfully imposed can be lawfully set off against salary if Swiss set off requirements are fulfilled. So again, there is a clear legal test established in jurisprudence, and when the criteria are met, CAS at least tend to agree with that. I will return you back to Slovan Bratislava case. in Slovan Bratislava case, we could not convince FIFA that we are right. The next case is Slovan. Let's move to the next one. I think it's the last one. In that case, we could not convince FIFA that we applied a valid set-off. It seems that FIFA doesn't possess the knowledge to go in depth into such complex legal issues, such as exception on depleted contractors and setting off claims. Then you need to rely on CAS, and we already heard from Timothy, that's a huge problem. I don't think it was from you, yeah? That the huge cost. You mentioned the huge cost. You mentioned it. Not yet. Yeah, there are huge costs, so apparently there is legal aid available for you when you go to CAS, but not to anyone. It's mainly for natural persons or for clubs that are fourth category. By the way, I see that there are many clubs in Nigeria that are fourth category, and you should know that when you have a claim, a contractual one, you can refer to CAS for legal aid. If you're an academy, you don't generate big revenue, and you still want to go to CAS because FIFA didn't rule in your favor, you can ask CAS for legal aid. So that's not a full stop. You pay 1,000 Swiss francs. Even if you don't have 1,000 Swiss francs to pay to start the proceedings, when you file the statement of appeal, you have the right also to file with the legal aid application and say, I don't even have 1,000 Swiss francs to start this proceedings. Please cover my expenses. So then the appeal will be filed on time, and then ICAS committee will rule, and then if you get the legal aid, you will move on. So with Mocha, that was an interesting case. As I already told you, Mocha was misbehaving all the time, very, very strange player. And at the end of the day, after 45 days of negotiations with him, trying to settle all the disputes we had pending with the previous FIFA decision on the previous contract, a case with a car. We had a side agreement with him on the lease of a car, where the club was actually not making the deductions the same way as it was in the Moot case. We were not doing these deductions yet, and at the end of the day, we also had no agreement with him to provide accommodation, but we did. And we were trying to convince him for some time to move to another apartment or get cash so that he can pay, because we were reducing in the club the money for accommodation, although again this was not a contractual obligation. So after 45 days of talking, and an agent who has no clue about laws, rules, ethics, advising him very badly, I finally took the decision to apply the set-off. And then we arrived at CAS with this strange decision. It overturned the FIFA decision on liability. FIFA said that the player terminated with just cause. CAS said the opposite. CAS said no. Since you applied a valid and legal set-off, the player had no just cause because at the time of the termination you owed less than 2 salaries. And besides, he didn't provide a warning here. That was also a crucial procedural mistake by the player. There was no warning prior to termination. Do you know how he tried to rectify this mistake? He tried to claim that the termination notice was actually a default notice with 1 month period notice. So he was claiming that instead of terminating the contract at the end of April, with this notice that we received, he was terminating at the end of May. Of course, nobody bought this argument in CAS. And again, here the player never had the argument that the remaining salary which he received from the club was insufficient to live. So this claim was rejected. Strangely, our claim for compensation was turned down, although we received 100,000 from him on the car. So basically, FIFA condemned the club to pay 3,000 something, which was a note, and then overturned. And then we had a decision that Mocha has to pay 100,000, and they said no compensation. That was very surprising because they said that we actually acted recklessly, but legally right, but recklessly. We surprised him with the set-off. I don't think that it's a legal argument that someone is surprised with a legal argument. It couldn't be a legal defense, valid one. Besides, the lawyer for the player, in this case, never even presented a single argument in his answer to my appeal brief, asking the court, if you eventually find that there was no just cause for my client to terminate the player, then please reduce the compensation for the club to 0, or upon your discretion. There was no argument. They didn't even dispute our claim on compensation. And we didn't discuss it on the hearing because We had a claim for compensation. They didn't dispute it. There was no discussion. No discussion. And all of a sudden, the decision says, yeah, but you tried to evict him overnight. That's not true. We were talking 45 days. You acted recklessly applying a legal set-off, although it's legal, because it was surprising for the player. What do you mean it was surprising? We were talking about that for 45 days. Besides, in the previous occasion, the player sent an email to the club saying, I agree that you set off my down payment for the car against my salary. So he cannot be surprised by our behavior when he himself offered that. So that's part of CAS experience, where CAS doesn't rule strictly on the law, but mainly on justice. And what was also very strange with this player was that in November, same year, he went to play for Morocco, his first appearance for Morocco. He has dual citizenship, Morocco and Spain. And he didn't return in time. He went to Spain, partying with friends. So we had to file with FIFA on Annex 1 and ask for sanctions on Morocco and the player. And FIFA sanctioned Morocco National Federation. That's probably interesting for our barrister here, for the federation, that when a player, after doing his national duty, goes to party and doesn't go back to his team, you as a federation will be sanctioned. So you should be mindful about that all your players after national duty go back to their clubs, don't miss their planes, because then the responsibility is on the federation. So this was a decision rendered by FIFA in November, and it had number 1. Imagine, in that year, it was only us claiming against the player. But because Morocco was sanctioned in this case, they never called this player up again. So it was his first and last appearance in Morocco. That's life. So let's just do the conclusion and wrap up this presentation. So what is common between, next slide please. What is common between both doctrines, no work, no pay, and set-off, is that they both reflect the same Swiss principle, which is a party in default cannot demand performance. Otherwise put, no party can invoke their own turpitude. You cannot get any benefit out of your breach. The CAS position on no work, no pay is that suspension is lawful only when the player expressly invokes the exception of exception non-arbitration contractors, and CAS rejects it when the player is in breach or raises it after the fact. No retrospective application of this principle. On the set-off, it's valid only when requirements are met: reciprocal monetary claims, due or likely claims, no prohibition, clear declaration, and salary remains above the protective minimum terms attached under the minimum. And the practical takeaway should be draft clear payment and deduction clauses. Here, the advice to lawyers for players would be try to put into the contract with the club a clause explicitly prohibiting the club from setting off their claims for fines against your client's salary. And the opposite, my advice to clubs is always put in the contract an explicit clause saying that the club has the right to set off any monetary sanction imposed on the player against his salary. In fact, FIFA's position on this matter is that only if the contract contains an explicit clause allowing the club to set off a claim for fine against salary, then it's applicable. So they require an explicit contractual clause. So that's very important what we do as a job. And don't forget to send proper notice before you avail of your rights, and apply the set-off only strictly within the limits in the law. Thank you. Is it good? No? Is it good? Okay.
Very fantastic.
Any questions, guys? All right, Timothy is first.
Thank you, Yogi, for the presentation. There is, from practice, there is a growing cancer, in my opinion, in especially in Eastern Europe countries, on the no work, no pay obligation. I've encountered 2 scenarios where the player, one scenario, the player had the migration issue, so he could not go back, he was deported, and then they forced him to sign a waiver agreement saying that he will not be paid because he's not there. Then for the second scenario, the player got injured, and they also did the same thing. And they made him sign an argument saying that since he's injured, he won't be paid the duration of the injury. I would wish to pick your mind.
Come again with the second scenario.
The second scenario, the player got an injury. So they signed an agreement that during the time he's home for treatment, no pay. Player signing, so I want to just pick your mind on how to reconcile that with the no pay principle.
I'm pretty sure you're aware of my precedent cast from 2018, where we invoked Article 341, Paragraph 1 of the Swiss Code of Obligations, which is a mandatory rule, which says that a player, an employee, cannot waive their basic rights granted by mandatory rules of the law. And one of the mandatory rules of the law is Article 323, which allows the player to be paid for his job, and another rule is 324, where if the employer does not provide the job for which it has employed the player, then it still has to perform. So any waiver that's signed which waives such rights like salary rights would be invalid under Article 341. So normally, if you have a client with such kind of waivers, I would challenge them immediately with FIFA, and I can tell you that FIFA, there are like 5 or 6 instances that I know on top of my head now, that they sided with the player and they said that this is invalid. Even in one of them, they explicitly referred, which they very reluctantly do, to Article 341 of the Swiss Code of Obligations. This is a rare one, but I have it. If you're interested, I can send you. But for me, those waivers are not valid, even if they are not signed under duress. Okay, even they are voluntarily signed, their players' rights are still protected under the law, and he can still go and say this waiver is not valid. So you have a defense, and there is case law already, ample case law on that. But it's 341. That's your answer. Any other question?
We'll have that final question, and then we'll proceed to the next piece of business.
My question concerning the Morocco Federation that was sanctioned for the failure of the player to return to the club. So my question is, how can a federation protect itself? Is the booking of the player's flight enough to back to the club? Is that enough to protect the federation's ability in a situation where the player refuses to go back to the club, just like the Moroccan Federation sanction?
Well, your question is to the barrister sitting in front of you, not to me. But what I would do if I were him, the head of EO, who answers better than me for sure, would be set up some contractual basis for that. I mean, I assume, I don't know, I will clearly know, that they have some kind of contracts, maybe collective bargaining agreement in the national team, maybe individual contracts, but this kind of contract could include penalties. And the next time he comes, that he can be sanctioned if he gets some bonuses or payments from the federation. There should be a contractual basis between the federation and the players, so that the federation can have a counterclaim against the player if they get sanctioned by FIFA for the behavior of the player. But again, I think someone inside the federation can answer better than me.
Thank you. You made a valid point about if the federation issues a ticket, because if the federation, prior to the guy's departure from his club, issues a ticket to him, Nigeria is paying on today the 6th, so you're paying 6th, and issues a ticket that you're going back to your club on the 7th. And the club is aware because you're in touch with them, because you send your telling the club when he's coming, when you're expecting him back, when he's coming back. And you issue the ticket, and he has the ticket. He uses the ticket to come, and maybe for some reason decides not to use the ticket and go to the beach, to party. You have filled your bag, like George said. Eventually, if the federation is sanctioned, you can also proceed against it. But the fact that he has a ticket to go back and the club is aware that he's supposed to come back on the starting team, so the club takes it off the table.
hopefully that would mitigate the circumstances.
Yes.
Because the federation acted in good faith, fulfilled their utmost obligations, and then in that situation, in such a situation, I expect that normally the club would sanction only the player under the internal rules in the contract. But in our case, the tension was so high. We had so many problems with this player. We had no other option to bring him back. In fact, we tried to bring him back before we go to FIFA. We tried to speak to him and his agent and tell him, look, you should come back. We know you're in Spain. And he tried to lie to us. He said, I'm in Spain. I'm doing COVID tests. They don't let me fly. Airports are closed. And we checked all that. It was not true. He was in visa, exactly. And then that's like a specific case scenario where we decided that we should get some help from Morocco. And Morocco did not respond to us. We sent them a letter first asking for their help. We said, please speak to him, put some. Nothing happened, and that's when we went against both him and Morocco. Well, this is interesting that FIFA said that they don't have jurisdiction under Annex 1 to sanction the player, but they have jurisdiction in the Morocco Federation. So that's the Morocco Federation.
Thank you very much, Mr. Georgie Grandem, for exceptional. Wonderful, wonderful. Now, I hope we're all in the house. Are we all in the house? Fantastic. Now, just a few changes to our program here today. Ladies and gentlemen, recognizably, because of time, we have moved the final session to a date that will be communicated, and this will be virtual. Somebody was expecting to come up from Abuja? Yeah? Somebody was expecting to come up from Abuja. No, it's going to be a virtual session and communication will be laid out. Also, all slides by our presenters here today shall be shared within the next few days. The addresses that have been shared with us. Once again, I would like us to put our hands together for all the presenters we have had today and of day one. Indeed, if it was about tuition being paid, the invoice is a big one. Yeah, the invoice is a big one from our presenters, but overall, thank you very much for all that have made their presentations here today. Thank you, that's wonderful. Now, I want us to move on to the awarding ceremony. Are we ready for the awarding ceremony? But before we get to that,
Good afternoon, everyone. Good evening, everyone. I'm really very tired already. I guess you all are tired, except from Professor Georgie. Moving on. I don't know if you're tired. I'm very tired. I want to really appreciate everyone who's taking the time to come down here. I will start in particular order, but I'll be very grateful to Ms. APMNK, who's very instrumental to the growth of FLAM. She was always like, shared the idea with last year, August, July, when I was in Rome. I was like, I have to talk to you about something, so like, short for me, and that's a good plan. You think it would fly. Maybe I said no, the game from that food, we took that held last year because it was very instrumental last first edition. Thank you very much, Isha. I'm grateful for you and your wife. So, Mr. Ricardo, I have a special relationship with you, very special relationship. I reminded you when I contacted you on LinkedIn and how you kept encouraging me and so on and so forth. In fact, when I got my first picture at the Badi ROC, I told him, Mr. Ricardo, I got a judgment. He was like, yeah, that's all thanks to your hard work. Keep pushing. And I never thought I would ever be in the same room with Mr. Ricardo. And I'm so humbled that you came down the way from Mexico down to Abuja just because of people like me. Then also Mr. Georgie, the professor. Yeah, I only hear about Silla. When you talk about Silla lawyers, you talk about only Georgie and Yuri. So I was in Serbia earlier this year with my friend, Papa Subotica. And I was like, I know Silla lawyers. I was like, is it Georgie? I went to Flora in Armenia. In Albania, I was with FLAM FC. I was like, a friend and a mentor. I went to Silla lawyers. I was like, it's not Georgie. I go to Bulgaria on the 2nd of November. I was in a car with the airport drop guy. And I was like, there is this big lawyer from Bulgaria. And the guy was like, there's one law in Bulgaria where every lawyer wants to work. And the boss is Johnny Gandel. I was like, wow, it's impressive. I got to Plovdiv and I spoke to my friend, Valerie. And told me, you know Georgie? Like, he was shocked. Like, smallish you know Georgie, the big man, both in intellect, knowledge, and he's huge, 6'4". I was like, yes, I know him and I chat with him. I have to show him the chat. So that's impressive. So Mr. I'm very grateful for your time. When I spoke to him, I spoke to Mr. John in January this year. We fixed it January this year. I was like, please do make it possible. I was like, sure, tell me the date. And he's following up. And so when I told him we don't have so much to cater for his prestigious nature, like, he's a big man. It was like, whatever you provide, I'm comfortable with it. So I'm very grateful with Mr. Georgie. I want to ask you to do that you have to prepare my messages because whenever I have a job to do, one Georgie says, go ahead. I did a case recently, I lost 12 degrees. And Georgie told me to lose because your actions were, only post factor. So that these actions were taken after the fact. And judgment came out and I lost. I was like, yeah, I lost everything I told you to lose. So I always complain before I take any step. Right? Except for very simple matters. Yeah, it's alright. Then Mrs. Shima, thank you so much. I'm very grateful to you. It's so difficult to get a husband and wife to leave their country, their home, their businesses, for their son, for 2 working days. Yeah, I'm very grateful to you, my brother. But we gave to our convinced the wife, but the wife convinced him. Yeah, to leave Egypt, leave their businesses, close their offices, and leave their associates and so on to come down here. We are very grateful. And then from the work he does in women in sports in Africa, it's really tremendous, admirable. Like, I go there, I was like, well, what she's presenting or teaching is ahead of Africa. Because she doesn't even understand this thing. This is only work well better in Europe because that's where we have the awareness of the rights of women in sports. So I'm really grateful that you took your time, man, to come down to Abuja back to back last year and this year. And we hope to see you next year. Then to my Oga, we all call him Oga if you're from Nigeria. My first case when I went to the NFL in 2021, that was when I was doing a case in which Misebi was on one side. And I met my Oga, and I was very young then, I was very legit and I met my Oga in the office. He's somebody, if you go to the office of Obi, his door is always locked, was open. Once you tap him up, he will tell you who's outside and come inside. He doesn't believe in you must go to the PA or the secretary to get him. As long as he is not in a meeting, once you tap on his door, he will tell you, come inside. So Ogobi encouraged me, told me, Pius, you have a bright future. In fact, he told me something. He told me, get the experience first, go for the masters later. So I had to, as I thought I was going to this day in 2021, I had already appeared over 45, 50 biscuits at FIFA. So when we were talking about training compensation, at the 12 Bs, or things, I already had Elder to know reporting about. So Ogobi kept encouraging me, and he told me, never make your services very cheap for me to affordable. So sir, I'm very grateful to you. I'm very grateful. coming yesterday, coming today, despite your busy schedule, to still get you 5 p.m. I'm very grateful to you, sir, and to the Nigerian Football Federation. To Mr. Kaja, I call him Kaja, he's Kaja. Yeah, we met on LinkedIn, we started talking. I followed his work in African sports, African Sports Council. Yeah, what he does there, I followed that. Then there was a case that happened recently. A journalist contacted me about the case in Uganda, and I asked him who's president of the club. He said it was Kaja. I was like, oh, not surprised. And then within 3 days, I saw an appointment that Kaja has been appointed as a partner of legal law firms in Uganda as a partner in sports law. And then I chatted him on WhatsApp, very informal. I was like, brother, please, can you come to Abuja for this event? He told me, I'm very busy with lectures, but give me your dates and I'll make it. And I gave him the date, was like, sure, I'll make it to Abuja. I'm very grateful you came down here, it was really grateful. So Miss Snow, if I call her Madam Law, they will be like, what are you talking about? Well, it's Africa. So Miss Snow and Madam Law. I've never seen her, I've not spoken to her into FLAM. I just told her, Melari, I see this woman, but I don't know if she'll respond to me. Please, can you talk to her? And that makes her that, and she said she'll be coming. I was like, wow. And she had an engagement, I think in Angola or somewhere. But said she'll be able to make it down to Abuja. I was like, wow. I'm really grateful. Thank you so much. I read all your work on safeguarding and security online. I read all your work. I'm very grateful that you made it down there to share your impact and knowledge with us and to assist us in encouraging the younger generation and debating the football people. Then Mbamza Pauline, who's Ugandan but Nigerian. She's more Nigerian than Nigerian. When we were talking on WhatsApp, she was like, are you alright? Like, when she spoke Pidgin, I was like, are you Ugandan? She said she's Ugandan. I was like, well, she's Nigerian, so it's our sister. Yeah, I'm very grateful to Pauline. She's one lady that she can mess up around her, she will call you out. She's not scared, not to worry. As long as she's on the right path, she'll call you out. If you're being shitty, she calls you out. So Miss Pauline, I'm grateful to you. Thank you for coming down. Yeah, sorry, I won't go around, but I will take. I'm almost done. Yeah, when this, as of August this year, I called AP, or no, as of July, I told you something. I don't think this year will go. The budget is huge. I cannot afford it. She was like, well, let's see what happens. Then I called Mr. John Campus. I was like, sir, it's not good this year. We don't say it will happen. And then we ended the call. And I got the message that's very encouraging. Not the regular text message. The message that's encouraging. An actual message. And I was like, well, I told Mr. David, this is what's going on. But I told you something will happen. So Mr. John, I'm very grateful to you. You're someone I call at midnight, in the morning, in the afternoon. Senior customs officers are retired, but he just carries recently. But he always takes my calls, even if it's in the invitation files, I'm in a meeting. Yeah. To the man I call my father. In fact, anybody I tell I work for a gay man, they say, okay man, very gentle, very loving. Mr. Georgie, the man behind you, I have never signed an agreement with him as a payment. But man tells you 20%, go to sleep. Unless it's sick. As he said this morning, the next day is going to the bank, he's paying you. It's an epitome of modesty, honesty, humility, and hard work. Integrity. He's been in law for over 25 years. I'm really grateful to you, to the young guys out here who think there's money in football. Actually, not like God is money, but yeah. Of course. Yes. Of course. So okay, who I call my biggest client. What's your biggest client on Academy? Like you don't know. He's my biggest client. Thank you so much, sir, for the support over the years. I'm very grateful to you, sir. Then to Mr. Gozier, when I told him this year, I want to host this event. It was like, Barrister, I will support you guys. In fact, his support started in our account for 3 months, and that was the only money in our account. He's the president of the innovation. I'm truly grateful to you, sir. idea, the dream, the goal. It was like, I sent a proposal, I'll take it to Oga. I sent to him, told me, just wait a minute, call Oga. And I called Oga, just there, but that's on every mile after the former House of Rep member. And they supported our event, and he was here yesterday from 10 a.m. to about 8 p.m. Mr. Adamo, I'm very grateful that you're here. Thank you so much. My routine is FLAM. I don't know how to, in fact, for the first time in my life, I stay in my room and I don't know everything's ready. Mr. Jude, Mr. Solomon, when Cavendish could not make it, when we were worried that Cavendish would make it to Abuja, Solomon stopped initiating. He said to that to the Uganda airline and sent for the discount. And then he went further and convinced the Uganda Football Federation of FIFA to pay for the flight ticket of the students down to Nigeria. And they paid for them. God save Mr. Solomon. Also, we were thinking of like figure event hosts. Because many persons, they gave us international transport, very expensive to international transport. I was like, no, I have someone who's worked with sports broadcasting for 23 years, who's more experienced than myself, who's a better speaker, who's more confident, who's a better moderator. I told you, Mr. Solomon, we come to Abuja. So surely you're going to the price. And as you guys can see, I think we don't have to put better host than Mr. Solomon. The personality, the coordination, the way FLAM is run, I founded FLAM, but I don't know FLAM. It's owned by myself, Solomon, Jude, CJ. They make the decisions for FLAM. All I did just like, okay, just carry me along. Then to Mr. Jude, who's the organizer for this year. Yeah, Jude is somebody I've known for 18 years in the minor seminary. Yeah, I was in the minor seminary to be a priest. Yeah, we've been friends for 18 years. Yeah, he's somebody I can tell Jude, like, I've not told you what to do. But Jude corrects me. He's very articulate, very calm. When we are quarreling with them by it, with everybody calm down. So it's like he's a charismatic leader. I'm very grateful to Mr. Jude for what you've done this year. And yeah, thank you so much. Larry, thank you so much for your effort last year or this year. Mr. Papuchi, thank you so much for everything. So Brenda, who's been our go-to person for media and everything, I'm grateful. So my friends, my family, I can't call everybody more tired. I'm truly grateful for what we've done this year, and I'll take this opportunity to say that next year, FLAM, we are coming to Lagos next year. And I'm feeling authoritative with that Mr. George has told me to be around. Morga, very busy, but I don't become to Lagos. But I'm not. So yeah, they assured me expressly, tacitly, and impliedly, that they'll be in Lagos next year. So we are moving to Lagos next year. And yeah, jollof rice and amala. Ricardo has been trying out here. So we are, so that's what we're moving to Lagos next year. To Cavendish University, thank you so much. Thank you so much. It was a close call. Yeah, it was a close call. I told no one. I was routing for Cavendish to win, but he told me something. No, don't say that. Anybody can win. Cavendish, I think all right. I'm not involved in decision making. I don't influence it, but they have been very professional, very professional from day one. In fact, they never lost any single round. And before me, it was just a practical, not my skill. Thank you so much, Cavendish University, and we hope to see you next year. Bigger, better, and maybe as a winner. Who knows? Unilag and AAU. I'm very impressed. Mr. Georgie, I told you last year. Mr. Ricardo, I told you guys this last year that FLAM, the first edition, these two guys were in the finals. Unilag and AAU. And this year they're in the finals again. Different participants, the same school. So it shows excellence. It shows hard work. It shows passion. It shows it screams everything for excellence. And I hope to see them next year in the finals. Hopefully, I don't know. Maybe they'll be knocked out. I don't know. But you guys have done so well. And as Oga told me earlier, that he's planning something for the participants. I just hope that you guys truly have the passion for sports stuff, and not just for the prize money or the pictures of Mr. Georgie, Mr. Ricardo, or AB, or Madam No. Yeah, this tell you this. That I was on the panel yesterday to go to Miami for the AIAAF conference. You have to pay $900 to attend. And they are here. No fee to sit there, no fee to talk with Mr. Johnny for 2 hours, 1 hour. It's free lecture for you. Meeting the head of Lagos NFL. Meeting Mr. Isha. If you go to see Egypt, you have to pay at least $1,000 to go fly to Egypt. But they have come down here to meet you in person, to interact with you, to encourage you, to share knowledge with you. See that as the core benefit. See that more important than the price money. The price money will finish by next week for them. Then for Mr. Johnny to buy coffee in a minute. It's done. So if you take it, just take advantage of the opportunity that you have them here. So imagine asking me for advice and mentorship. And I've got people who I disturb by 4 a.m. to your very big score. I think you take advantage of that. This is the head of Lagos NFL. Take advantage of that mentorship. He was Marcus administrator. So take advantage of that. Don't see FLAM as just an opportunity to make $1,000, $2,000, or even the next year. Don't see it as an opportunity to grow, to develop your craft, your skill. As Georgie told me, Georgie said the first one he made was $100. Mr. Georgie, 2020, I did a job for $20,000. That is about $11. And we're here today. He did his first job and he got paid $100. So this should be encouraging. See FLAM beyond the price money at that. See for the value we offer, for the mentorship, for the networking, for the knowledge. Yeah, I've spoken too much. I'm not as much as much. Thank you so much, everybody. I wish you guys safe life as you go back tomorrow on Monday. And hopefully, by the grace of God, inshallah, we'll see you all in Lagos next year. Thank you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, another round of applause for Mr. Payaso Duboku, the founder of the Football Law Annual Moot. And indeed, we've had a wonderful time, a wonderful stay in Abuja. I've knocked off 2 plates of jollof rice. I have been told, which place is that I've been promised? Village Chief. I hope I don't become the village chief of that place. All right, now, to the prizes. We had 4 categories to award from this competition, and I will name those 4 categories. We had the best brief, we had the best advocate, the runner-up, and the winner. I would now like to invite the president of Dominion Hotspurs FC, Mr. Emmanuel Udwegu, please. Good. All right, and to do the honors of giving away the best brief, ladies and gentlemen, the best brief by a unanimous decision, not the boxing one, not the boxing one, but by unanimous decision of the arbitrators, the award for the best brief of the 2025 Football Law Annual Moot goes to the award for the best brief goes to the University of Lagos. Congratulations. Congratulations, ladies, for the Best Brick Award. Wonderful write-ups there. Moving on to the next award, which is the award for the Best Advocate. And I would like to invite Honorable Kamisu Ahmed Malataki. He will be represented by Secretary AD. Please, you're welcome, ladies and gentlemen. And the award for the Best Advocate of the 2025 Football Law Annual Moot, by majority decision of the arbitrators. This one is majority now. The Best Advocate 2025 FLAM is Oludukagode Paul from Adebole at the State University. Congratulations, Paul.
Islam, Kaja, and all other internationals that are here in Abuja and your responsibility. You are being
Congratulations, Paul. As good on the table as he was last night at the football field. Congratulations, Paul. Nice, please, I'm going to ask you to stay there. Yes, I know you're tired, but let's get through this and have a wonderful evening. We've been promised, I don't know which the closest dance club around here is. Jojo is going. Please don't leave me, I have my dancing shoes. Yeah? Yes, ladies and gentlemen, of course, the work that we have done so far wouldn't have been possible without our arbitrators, and indeed it's been a wonderful time having the top men and women of the business, and to recognize their effort, we shall be awarding them certificates in appreciation of their work from the Football Law Annual Moot. And to receive the first certificate, ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for Miss Pauline Mbanza. If you thought Georgie was tough with the question, you haven't yet first for me. That is a fact. I've been through some of the sessions and hey. Next, our next certificate goes to Mr. Islam Hisham. Thank you very much, Mr. Islam Hisham. We are coming over to Egypt, huh? The fifth FLAM is coming to Cairo. Yeah? From Lagos, Kampala, then Cairo. The next certificate will be accorded to, before I bite my tongue, Harian Noor. Please, put your hands together. For Madame Noor. Thank you very much for your service to the Football Law and the Moot. Our next certificate goes to coming all the way from South America, from the city of Mexico City, and the country Mexico, Mr. Ricardo Dibuen. Yes, aka OK Campos, and Ochoa also. If you missed him last night in the football field, whoever wants, when is the transfer window opening? January. Please, there's a goalkeeper here to sign, Very good goalkeeper. Ladies and gentlemen, and in recognition of the service to FLAM, let's put our hands together for Mr. Timothy Carter. Thank you very much, our arbitrators. Indeed, you have done us very good service in adjudicating the sessions that we have had all through. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, for this one, I want to hear the loud hand claps. Yeah? Please put your hands together and in appreciation of the work done as an arbitrator all through the sessions and a panelist, Shima Eldali. Congratulations. Our hosts for the 5th round of FLAM. Now, if you thought exception and adipleti contractus was a simple piece of Latin phrase, well, there's this one man who knows them like the alphabet or the Latin alphabet. Ladies and gentlemen, for the sessions that we've had and the arbitration and chairing the arbitration session yesterday, please put your hands together for Mr. Georgie Grande. Thank you very much for your service to FLAM. Our next certificate goes to, from the Nigerian Football Federation, Director Legal Barrister Oke Obi. Thank you very much, Barrister Oke Obi. And our final certificate, thank you very much for the service done to FLAM, Madam Ebi Eminike. Thank you very much. Thank you very, very much. You are going to stay there. Now, our final 2 awards for the 2025 FLAM. Of course, 2 contestants. Very, very hotly contested affair it was here. Somebody, like I said, walked out and said it is very tight. They probably never wish they would be the ones who were here. But nonetheless, our arbitrators decided, and taking 2nd place, or the runners-up spot, in the 2025 Football and Moot. I will not name those or the university before inviting Mr. John Akabosi, the president of the shop, to give away the award. And thank you very much for the service to FLAM. Pius made mention of a very critical message that came to his father. Wonderful. Thank you very much. It's very, very commendable. Mr. John Akabosi from the shop, the president of the shop. Now, taking the runners-up spot for the 2025 Football Annual Moot. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together. 4. Put your hands together. 4. The University of Lagos. Florida. They will receive
to my destiny. I've waited patiently.
They receive a plaque and $1,000 as prize money for their effort. Congratulations, ladies. Very likely to give away more money to the player. Instead, they are receiving more. Yes, compensation in this regard. Just enough to compensate for congratulations. I would like to invite the officers kindly to come forward quickly to take a picture with our runners up.
And I be the main one they just stand up.
Congratulations, University of Lagos, for this achievement. Second place in the 2025 Football Annual Moot. Thank you very much. I'll ask our arbitrators to just kindly come down after the runners-up have I'll ask Mr. Obi, Barrister Obi, okay, kindly stay here with Mr. Pius. Well, ladies and gentlemen, of course, without making the announcement anyway, we already know who the winner is, right? We already know who the winner is. But, let me do it like Michael Buffer. You all know who Michael Buffer is? Yes? Ladies and gentlemen, after more than 6 months of briefs, of writing briefs and reading cases and all the citations, it has come to this moment where we announce the winner of the 2025 Pius Odiboku Football Annual Moot. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for the Adekunle
Stand up, for champions.
They take with them $1,500 and the tears of joy coming through there, but well deserved. On top of the compensation, on top of everything else, they're getting themselves $500. Thank you very much. I'll ask our arbitrators to join in. Congratulations. Congratulations at the Adekunle University for this award and winning this year's FLAM. Runners up last year, winners this year. Great movements at the street of the table. On top of the prize money,
Stand up for the champions, for the champions.
Congratulations, the teary eyes. And the coach as well, you stayed on the side, but there's a moment you truly deserve to be part of.
Congratulations. You are stunning. And that's what everyone we have bright future. We'll be seeing each other. I'm pretty sure.
And the winners of I would like to invite Ms. Noor, please. Madam Noor, please come. And another announcement of a prize for find our winners, please come back and hear this, please.
Sorry, so anyway, I was unprepared for this. I thought you would take the honors, but this year we were happy to, rather privileged to host the first sport dispute resolution course for Africans. So of course with an international perspective and international experts coming on to be our facilitators. Yes, so for my, just as a way to support you and hopefully, would, further cultivate sports resolution or sports enthusiasm, we're happy to offer 50% scholarship for that course for this next year. So we will share an unbiased experience of the thing, so I would like to do that. Thank you.
So thank you very much. Yes, I started at the Strathmore University District Resolution Center, a very interesting course again, key to the issues of sports dispute resolution. Wonderful. This is a very big one. Now, let's keep skipping. I would like to invite Mr. Joseph Radeb for yet another announcement.
Pius asked me if there is any chance that I can get those students, and actually not only them, right? Also the second thing, to do an internship with me. Would you be willing to come? Yeah? Right. Let's start working on that and make it work. So I would like to have both couples, both teams, in different times, so that I don't match you together. I don't want to get married there, everybody. So you can only for work. No work, no pay, no? So I would like to see both teams in my office in Bulgaria. I will do research immediately for the paperwork we have to file, what we have to do, your obligations as students, so they don't interfere with you. In the same way I take interns from each, I would like to take you guys. And I will cover all your costs, including the applicants. Okay?
Thank you very much, Mr. Joseph. Thank you very much, Noor. Thank you very much, Pius. Thank you very much, our arbitrators. It is a beautiful day. Do you know why I'm smiling? Do you know why I'm smiling? Another offer. Things are happening quietly here.
I'm not Georgie, I'm not Ricardo. In the Bible, John the Baptist said that he who is running, that is not unfit to untie his branch of the shoe. I hope one day I'll be able to untie your shoes, Georgie. So, in my humble nature, I told Solomon, we don't need so much. This year, we had over 500 applications from people around the world. So, in terms of people, 7 or 8 of them. It was quite engaged. The agents filed 4 cases at FIFA and they won 3. love to give exclusively, not just internship, like that one-on-one contact with me. I will supervise you, not any lawyer with me. Cavendish University, the two participants.
Thank you very much. Everything keeps coming. The whispers are, hey, I shouldn't leave this corner. Now, we have everybody taking something. Everybody is giving something. Mr. Hisham, I've been told you have something to give.
As usual, we submit offers to FLAM. Just last year, there is one intern and two interns submitted to going to our law firm, and we gave them opportunity to be with us to take the experience from our law firm about cases about FIFA cases and CAS cases. Also, we offer this again to you, as I told you before. And this offer is paid, as I told you last year. Also, this internship is paid for the intern that we will be with us to join us in sports and justice. So we are happy that you are joining us. And just after finishing this event directly, you have to send us, okay? And when you are free, maybe in summer, maybe in winter, if because you have a colleague, I think so, I have studied. So after you are available, send us, you will join us directly. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so sorry to say this. We have a big masquerade. In Africa, we have big masquerades. You know, they call masquerades. Like traditional masquerade. So yeah, so you're a big masquerade. So the small masquerade cannot be dancing, and the big one is not dancing. So I'm going to commit you. Yeah, it will be injustice if I don't send a person to you as a cast arbitrator for over 18-20 years with 31 years experience in labor law. So, Mr. Ricardo, I know this is not discussed the way I am with my mentor, my Oga, so I'm pushing you. At least you take one of them, just one. Thank you so much, sir.
Now, the whispers continue. The whispers go on. Now, where's Matters? Where's Matters? Matters is a footballer. Thank you very much. 2 assists, 1 goal. But this business is not for you. This business is for our winners here. And I would like to invite Barrister OKOB. The NFF has been part of this process. The NFF has definitely seen us through the 2 days. Barrister OKOB. People are giving. People are giving.
Put your hands together for Barrister OKOB.
Thank you, the FLAM team, Fires in particular. I am an employee of the NFF, so I can't have the authority to commit them to anything. But it is my nature when I see young ones that are very brilliant, hardworking. I go out on my way to mentor them. I go out on my way to give direction. And I personally, I commit to work with both teams. Before I was called up here to do this, I had already taken the contact of the both teams. What I'll promise you is that I don't have money to give. The office doesn't belong to me, but know that I'll be your biggest cheerleader. I'll support you in any way. I'll mentor you. And if for any reason you're in Abuja and maybe you're in the law school or you have a place to stay in Abuja, and you want to intend with us, I will advise you to. Anybody, Pius and every other person that has worked with me knows how we do it. I will advise you, if you can come and intend with us. Abuja is not easy, you need accommodation. But if you can find a place to stay, I should be able to put in the words in the office and they will allow you to intend with us. Whether for your after your call to bar or after your law school or your 1 year NYSC. Some of us here know Amobi. Amobi came to the office, it was just for youth service. Files just walked into my office and that was the beginning of our relationship. So please make an effort. I have reached out to you guys before now, so let's take it from there. I think I've shared my contact with you, so please let's keep in touch. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. What a beautiful 2 days it has been at the 2025 Mayasa Dubuku Football Law and your Moot. Let us all clap for ourselves. The final word for me is to thank everybody, the team, Pius and the team for putting this together, and myself as well for being your very wonderful host. Ladies and gentlemen, this brings us to the end of our 2 days in Abuja. Thank you all. It was great, everybody else. I wish you all a lovely weekend, the rest of Sunday, Saturday and Sunday, and yourself travels back home. I believe now the next announcement will be, which is the next dance club. Yes? Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. We'll have photos outside, or even still inside. Yes, really. I am yet to be told. Somebody's yet to whisper in my ear. Yes, but yes, so photos for those that would love to have them, interviews wherever you can. Thank you very much all. Have yourselves a wonderful time. Be well and be blessed.
Something
Israel, thank you very much. Wonderful job. You did well. You did well. We all did well. Yeah, called beer, which is Nigeria's finest. Nigeria's finest. That's why I told you what. Reply at your name and destination. Sure, it was. Maybe sometime when I come. You're welcome. I'm my
I know some ideas now.
Congratulations, ladies. Wonderful, very, very wonderful. Unless I've been able to see you up to the end.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Very quick appreciation. I learned so much. I mean, I knew
So, actually, oh yeah, I've seen you recently a lot. Wow. My friends, everyone has seen you. Yes. I think I've seen you like. So she's actually wow.
Sorry guys, I want something is really really very urgent. I'm sorry. It wasn't yet. It's like a celeb. I have very many friends in Lagos, University of Lagos. So I will not tell you who because then you will know. I have met a couple of them. You break it.
Stay around upset.
You know you go to my room. Orangambe filaria karumko.
Kali, no challenge mtero ate. What called what this?
Na van.
For something.
Okay, there speed light no there. Which one? The second speed light.
Is there any clip you hold this guys? Is there any clip that you hold this guys? This for them, right? This yours. Who is taking the inside time? How is this thing for? Okay, another thing. I'm not being waiting. So there's another one that is female. Prefer to just get Jack, Jack X, Jack. We want them to get. But last year we had it. You know, it's not the big side things last year. And that was why I was insisted on getting.
Who is with it? You go together now. Yo, we go now. Where does that close? Don't close you. Come to load. Again.
With a 50% deposit bonus, increase your investing power with Pocket Broker. Plus investing instant top-up and withdraw with no fees.
May I connect some music?
Abi.
And go along in River.
Oh yeah, shake it ni.
Let me come. This code. You can come out and go die yourself or raise that, yeah.
Somebody told me.
Job, Super.
Sanjay. Yeah. There we go.
Let me tell you, shit, you can stand for me. So you know I got no feeling right now. You done everything. I wish about that freedom. And if I listen, when I'm really gonna flip like a tradition. Give me something weird if you see it. They wanna try.
Jobs!
It's only time. See the people waiting for our phone. It's the blue that yeah, give me eyes. Yeah, in my mind.